So, what happens when you're not in full-time ministry anymore, but that sense of calling still hasn't gone anywhere? When you're not preaching every week, you're not shepherding a congregation, but people even still come to you or maybe even still call you pastor, and you still feel that pull to guide or to serve, to help, and to make meaning. You thought stepping away would bring clarity, maybe even some relief, but instead things maybe just feel more complicated. You might even be experiencing grief or freedom, even confusion, and it's all showing up at once. Hey friend, I'm Evan. I was a pastor for 18 years, and these days I help churches, leaders, and people navigate seasons of transition. And I host a podcast called The In Between, where we help guide individuals experiencing personal, professional, or spiritual disruption and all the questions, uncertainties, and opportunities that come with change. Because you're not alone in asking, what now? And what's still true? And how do I make sense of who I am and what I've done? And now that some of the things like the role and the titles are all gone. Because here's what people don't always see when someone leaves full-time ministry. It's not just a job change, it's a change in rhythm, in role, and maybe even how people see you or how you thought people see you. And maybe even in how you see yourself. Ministry holds a lot. It's where you sensed your calling was being lived out. It's not that it wasn't. Yes, it was, but it's also where you found purpose and community and structure and even validation in some sense. And it helped shape your week, your relationships, the conversations you had. So when that season ends, even when you're the one that chose to leave, it's inevitable that there's going to be this type of grief. And it doesn't always have to be dramatic, but it may remain steady and quiet and just kind of beneath the surface. Maybe even the loss of a spiritual home, even the rhythms of preparing sermons or leading teams. Those all can leave a mark when they're gone. And one of the most helpful things you can realize is that ending a season well begins with naming what is ending. Because the truth is, many people outside of ministry circles don't fully get what you're going through. They might see a job title changed, but not the inner workings or even unravelings that you may be experiencing. That's why creating this space matters. To be able to say out loud, hey, this is hard and this is real, and you're not making up any of this. And if you're feeling disoriented or unsure what's next, I've created something that could help you. It's a free 7-day guide to help you gain clarity over these next few days. And it's designed to just take 10 minutes a day to get unstuck and to identify the clear, thoughtful, best next steps that you can take to move forward. You'll find the link to that resource in the description, because the in-between can actually feel like a void, like you've left something but you haven't fully arrived to where you're going to next. What if this transition isn't a problem to fix, but a threshold to honor? The space between what was and what's next can actually be sacred. It's not just a pause, it's a place of formation. Don't try to rush to fill this gap with the next thing. Let God meet you in the space of the in-between. Ask yourself, not just what should I do, but who am I becoming here? Because when you step out of ministry, the first thing you might ask yourself or others will ask you is, what are you going to do now? And obviously it's a fair question, but the real work, the deeper work, isn't about just finding the next fit or picking a new job title. It's about learning to listen again, not just the needs of those around you, but to what's actually happening within you. Because here's the thing, the transition out of ministry can create a lot of noise. It can create urgency, pressure, opinions, and even self-doubt. But underneath all of that, there's normally this quiet invitation. And in this space, it's time to get curious, to start asking questions like, well, what energizes me now? What comes naturally? Not just the things that I can do, but the things that are aligned. Where am I already noticing glimpses of joy, resonance, or even surprise? Because you're not just looking for another label to put on yourself. you're listening for alignment. This isn't about building a perfect plan. It's about noticing the threads that have been woven together throughout your life that can help lead you into this next and new season. And all of that can start with just a few simple, small questions. Like, what types of things do you lose track of time doing? What conversations leave you feeling the most alive and energized? What kind of work seems to light you up instead of draining you? Because honestly, if you feel stuck or a bit confused, figuring this out doesn't necessarily start with clarity. Sometimes you just have to give yourself permission to take the next step. You know, there might not be this grand blueprint. You may just have a sense of direction that's anchored in who you are, not just who you've been. This is something that I wish more people said out loud. Leaving full-time ministry doesn't mean that you've lost your calling or a sense of purpose. It might feel that way, like you've just stepped off the map, but vocation was never just about where you served. It's about how you live. Calling isn't tied to a role, it's tied to your design and where you're heading next. Maybe you don't have a pulpit anymore, but that doesn't mean you've lost your voice. You may not carry the title of pastor, but you still have the capacity to lead, to shepherd, to listen. None of those things disappear or have to disappear. It just finds new places to take root and to show up. Think about all the gifts that ministry and God cultivated in you. Things like empathy, discernment, teaching, understanding how to be present, leadership, and so many others. These aren't small, insignificant things. These are deeply transferable and desperately in need in places like business, coaching, education, healthcare, community, and you name it, all over the place. So maybe instead of asking, what am I supposed to do? Try asking, who am I becoming? Sometimes it's just about becoming the kind of person who can walk forward even without all the answers. So what do you do with all this? When you're in a season of transition, clarity rarely comes all at once, but it begins with slowing down enough to pay attention. So here are a few simple but powerful prompts to sit with. Maybe in a journal, maybe on a quiet walk, maybe in a conversation with a trusted friend. Because you're trying to figure out, are there things that I'm grieving? And you want to be able to name it, because unacknowledged loss tends to linger. And then, what's giving you life right now, even if it's in small, subtle ways. Because what energizes you is a clue to what could be around the corner and next. Another thing, where do you feel most aligned with who God made you to be? Not who you used to be or what you think you should be, but who are you becoming? I hope this helps, because you don't have to figure it all out today, but you can begin to listen. This is a time to gather some trusted voices, maybe a spiritual director, a coach, a longtime friend who really knows you. And make space for solitude too. A weekend retreat, a morning walk without your headphones, even just a quiet cup of coffee where you let these questions rise and you begin to surface some of your responses. If you've left full-time ministry, or maybe it's leaving you, you need to hear this. You're not starting from scratch. You actually are starting from a place of experience. This isn't the end of your calling. It's a turning of the page, and God is still writing your story. More than likely, you've walked with people through grief, doubt, and change. Now it's your turn, and that doesn't disqualify you. It deepens you and makes you a more well-rounded person. So give yourself the grace that you'd offer someone else. I get it. This next part of the journey might feel hidden, uncertain, and probably even lonely, but it's not wasted. It matters, and you're not alone in it. And if I can help you, I'd love to come alongside of you. And that can start with downloading that guide that I mentioned with the link that's in the description. Hey, if this resonates, I'd love for you to share and leave a comment. Let me know what resonates most with you.